begins with an idea of structures. It begins with us, together with clenched fists. Along the hill, we as phantasms, or we are phantoms. We blasted before the Pacific. Twin spirits crossing ridges. We are the recaptures, the sequences. We are the tenses covered. We stumble and collapse into piles of rubied dusts. Sun is the triumph of the memory. We sit through sunset-thorned explosions. Upon arrays of scrub, within eyes of coastal walls, upon warped floors bile-colored, within atmospheric ceilings, circuitous, cliff sheets covering the warmth and the chill, violence of the water, the colors of depths, colors of washing and cleansing, colors of the ceaseless, spurring us through graying concepts, spurring us deadpanned and frigid, colors of the ceaseless, softly lit and spasming, and there, balancing eruptions of dangling eyesight, for this day arriving in the tongue's color, longest, ceaseless.
On the day of his funeral, Chopin was a rosebud clutched between the gondolier's lips, an etude silk around the guillotine of the transparent valance. A tesserae of water-sound notes, a martyr's death wish. At the window across the street, a woman with her body of Murano glass enters like an epiphany. Her dress of flood tides, waves and waves of Armenian lace, a photograph of Venice. Its bridges with their unhinged mandibles, language as naked as a city of cemeteries. Cobalt bottlenecks, quicksilver canals, and all of its music swaying between waiting and wilting.
Never before have we seen this arrangement of visages of ourselves. Never has this bulbous invention been made such by us together alone, stealing and arresting in its height and its depth, a corporeal chiseling, to exactly illustrate us, to create both an excision and an agreement. The invention of the whole. Never this dense, the densest provocation of privacy, never this to erupt, an intimacy elevated, interrupted, erupted. This much with a touch of neutral nodding echoed from what was once before, the buffering, the echo, the in-between. Before an elongation of a satisfying yellow desert, the howling surrounds us to steal us away again. The howling of the yellowed. To occur as many nights later as nights required. To imagine all that is between us happening. This epiphany. This screeching dust. Why are we here amidst these plucked and set flowers of our wildest understanding? Why here, amidst a frustration of coastal viewpoints, vistas, grunts of contentment, mimicry and resounding expedients? Why? For the harmony of that which is elderly, dawning and dusking. Why? Across the ledges, lengths, and episodes of days, we understand. As crooked as even, we understand. Whisper responses. Press coldest flesh, where pale then becomes rosy. These are the answers. An arousal of a tide of blood that has been given a chance, has been revalued. Eyes playing with the mirages along the shouldered and hoisted horizons. A flurry of dazzling gusts. The wind as tricky. Tricking our heads which sag, which are together after all the miles traveled, all the time on the benches, all the time on the boulders. We move together slowly, fast, slowly, blurred along ancient roads, matched together. When you see, it is us. It is an agreement. The transcended, the oval-shaped knowing, an opulent omniscience. Off the edge of a writhing portal, steps required to turn back, to retreat, to retrace. In your hair there is the penumbrae of orbiting worlds, masses of structure and forethought, a balancing and an equation of chaos. Through chaos. There your grace, there is the sprawling spasm of millions of inequalities. This is us together. This is time, entangled in narratives of threat and soothed to sleep by those later of comfort. For once, I am aroused into the wilderness of your imagination, and then it's twice, and so on. Enthralled again by the tendrils and the roots, following steps once taken together, stretched like vines, inscribed like letters into stone, arched. Immersion, sealed within mothy fabric and stale bookbinding, an alluring murmur, the light upon the natural steps of this vague bluff, and so we find it all intentional, through lengths of necklaces, mementos, through placements of these in memorable positions, baubles from the furthest farthers of the skin of the neck, memories strayed along furrows of carpet, remembering the mechanization, the automation of the narrow slits of my eyes. I remember and hold it all together, a prelude and an afterword, after warding off the consequential murmurless breaths, those which hold us hushed and vulnerable, spot-lit, like the fruiting beyond the spores, uplifting or uproaring, hex or hexadecimal, surging frothily or avoiding entirely the methodical claps of erosion, while there is the stammer before a shallow light of moon, final mouthing of reminiscence of the dance of the last passages of the golden hour's pinkish house. We are together. We are ceaseless.
In an attic, the voodooed lamb's wool of my childhood, the crawl of hunger through the schisms in Ceylon, satinwood. I return to the chessboard of its floor, to the amputee in the closet, to the unlimbed mannequin of a fox-born elegy that drags its shark skin through the gut of my gap tooth. This is where my arms turn, into a diary drunk on apologies. This is where I lied, I laid, blood-sainted by an aria of amphetamines. The snow owls come to kiss the scarecrow, a blue ruins grotto grinning under my bedroom's window. This is where I housebroke a scream, sold it as a song. to the jaguar sleeping in the rock garden of his knuckles. He was a porcelain rose, tumor and blossom. Spit-shined, pumiced, I was the milky elbow of cinnamon wetting the tea cloth. This is where the archer blurred us to a liquid heat. I watched us each stain the other. Cochineal verbs biting into the lightweight cotton of the leaf. We ghost wrote the burgundy of each knife kiss into the journals of paper-thin kneecaps. We unfurled tongues in the other's mouth like teenage fingers, curling with poop around shoulders in a Russian roulette. This is where every bullet is soft like a bird song. Where we sat on hurricane-haunted verandas, watched the wind waltz with the tumbleweed. Where everything was once timeless as lightning. Where every loss murmurs the same sharp flame.
An emergence. Wings uncurled, a bird bursts forth. It's a stout figure, shadowy, untouchable. Then there's a drag of breeze and it's gone. We continue to hold each other when the birds have left to sleep, to roost. We hold each other in this fortress of these memories, of these limbs. We have lost the little sun, lost it along the trails of the dead, and yet we hold on. Beyond the light, a vibration, that tone that never halts, our bodies taking in the will of waves, the crashing rhythm of complex currents. With an exhale, with a pushing out, the death leads to birth. Now there are whispers of salt and of blood, language's shadow continuing, occupying the space between memory's greatest truths and greatest lies.